Thank you for joining the Once Changing the World, which is India's first future tech meets sustainability podcast. And today I'm delighted and honored to have with me Mr. Vijay Krishnan, who's the Director of Technology at Consensys. He plays a role in the implementation of advanced blockchain solutions for companies, and he has over 20 years of experience working with companies such as Amazon Web Services, IBM, and others. He has forged himself as a pragmatic and efficiency-focused leader with a keen understanding of blockchain, Web3, NFTs, and the Metaverse, which we will all talk about. So, Vijay, I really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. You've been vested in the traditional finance industry, and now you have dived into blockchain. The blockchain, which is the underlying technology which promises transparency, interoperability. That layer itself challenges the status quo of the traditional finance industry. So, first maybe possibly you could explain what blockchain is and what is it that nudged you from moving from a traditional banking finance industry to the blockchain industry.
So if you ask me, what is blockchain in 2016, I would have given a very different definition. After 7-8 years now, there are many versions of the same definition. My definition is a technology that helps bring in trust using internet, cryptography, shared ledger, and a consensus mechanism for validating transactions. I know it's a little bit of a technical oriented definition, but I think that stands very good with audiences because now people are very familiar with blockchain. So using this technology, one can create digital assets. That's the simplification of the terminology. One of the digital assets that everybody knows these days is probably Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any non-fungible tokens. My transition, and again, it's very accidental. I was sitting in Charlotte, North Carolina, on a Sunday afternoon, just like this. It was raining. I still remember the day. I was reading about Bitcoin. Nothing went into my head. This was way back in 2015, late 2016 early. Then 3 weeks, I couldn't wrap my head around Bitcoin. Nothing went in. It was like too complex for me, too serious topic for me. So then Ethereum was just surfacing around the corner. Ethereum launch was happening, and it was just making some buzz in the industry that time. So 3 weeks, heads down, trying to read about Ethereum and all that. It didn't fascinate me. Then there is one section in Ethereum which was very interesting and challenging to me. What is mining? So you won't believe in the third week I actually was mining Ethereum. So I went into the nearest Best Buy by walk. So brought in some rigs, built a mining rig on my apartment, and started mining. So that actually changed, my perception about this technology. Okay, there's something more than a traditional software development and what we regularly do in the industry. And after 6 weeks' time, when I had some Ethereum in my wallet, I was wondering, okay, what would I do in this? Now I know what is mining. Now I know what is this technology doing. But what do I do with this? They say cryptocurrency, digital cash, and all that. Then I was looking for learning more things about Ethereum and blockchain. Again, on a weekend, sitting like this, I found an article from another Ethereum enthusiast that he was selling 17 of his videos, for learning Ethereum. How to write smart contracts, how to debug them, how to deploy them, setting up your local network and all that. So my first transaction was buying that video, the collection of the video, using Ethereum as a cryptocurrency. I was just sitting like this. It just literally took me like 10 minutes to set up my wallet, do the transaction, buy the video, and get access to the video. Unbelievable. So that kind of changed my perception about what the future is all going to be, because there's no bank involved. You're actually signing a transaction by yourself. You're authorizing a payment, and you're getting access to the content that you're requesting. This was way back in 2016. So it just fascinated me, what this technology can do. And after that, I just don't want to go back what I was doing.
You mentioned about, how in 2016 you took Ethereum and you transacted and you purchased videos, but, from 2016 to 2022, I mean, obviously the tech stack is completely matured, but then with the cryptocurrency or the NFTs, that's a stack which is still volatile. It's still speculative. There is still security issues. So, what would you say about from 2016 to 2022? What have been the pros and cons of this ecosystem? Do you see uh, crypto being transacted like how we exchange money? Would you see that happening?
Yes. So, and I just again, I like to talk about numbers because coming from AWS, IBM, all these enterprises, we always like numbers, right? So, I think it has proven itself to a point, where it has just taken a complete different perception across the world, right? So, we have done more than 1 trillion worth of Ethereum transactions, both in terms of money as well as the number of transactions that we do in the system. So there is no other digital asset system, in the world which is public and anybody can access and do transactions has proved it to be done. This also means that more people are willing to, come into this new ecosystem, participate. Of course, there are scams, there are, ways people hack the wallets and things like that. That is the part that puts most of people off. But I don't see a point, why nobody can confidently transact if they know how to do it. The problem is how to. It's always about the education. So the problem is the basics. People want to earn money straight away without knowing, what they're doing, and that's when the problem comes.
Right. I think you rightfully pointed out. I think, with this new tech stack, the larger adoption seems to be the ones who don't want to do a deep dive into the ecosystem or understand what these tokens are doing, what this utility stack of the tokens are, but just want to make money. I hope that maybe in the near future we come to a world where we move to this digital world that we're talking about, the metaverse or the web 3.0, where the underlying economical layer would be driven by these virtual currencies such as crypto tokens and NFTs, rather than of fiat currencies, because of fiat currencies, obviously it's been a centralized creation of a nation or a government. It has its own pros and cons, but with this new tokenization of everything through the NFTs or cryptocurrencies, there are a lot of pros around it. Would you want to talk a little bit more about the DeFi versus CeFi? Because just I think maybe 2020 or 2021, there was a report by Deloitte saying that in the next 5 or 10 years, possibly, that fiat is going to make give way, and crypto is going to be the main currency that we trade with. What are your thoughts on something like that? Possibly, maybe I'm asking you too many questions. Maybe first, just to simplify to my audience, maybe you could talk about CeFi versus DeFi. What are the pros and cons? And do you see a world in the future where crypto would be replacing fiat currency?
So let's start with the DeFi to CeFi, right? Decentralized finance or finance and centralized finance. Um, I see there is a very narrow gap right now. The gap used to be huge, in 2016, 2017. Again, going by numbers, just with Ethereum, you can do 17,000 type of DeFi trades. So what are these DeFi trades? These trades or these types are nothing but extension of simple CeFi models. That includes lending, borrowing, investing, yield farming, deposits, or otherwise known as staking. All these models are nothing but a replica of what happens or what happening in the CeFi model, but using a new digital asset format, which is nothing but the DeFi world. Right, so it's only an extension of the digital asset medium that is different. But if you look at the business models, it's pretty much the same. If you look at the profit models, it's just the same. If you look at people who are operating in this space are the same people. They may be operating a different name, but these are the same people who knows the C5 world very well. They found a new medium to make lucrative money, for example, and they are very happy doing this. I think it's also very surprising to see the transformation from 2015, 2016 to 2022. We never used to see the institutionals, banks, or fintechs coming forward boldly doing anything in the public blockchain ecosystem, right? Because you need a public blockchain to do an decentralized finance. I think that slowly changed a lot. You would definitely seen a number of news about many stock exchanges now issuing ETFs based on Bitcoin and Ethereum, right, or some other cryptocurrencies, now which is a pretty significant move in the industry. So I'm not saying it's good or bad, but the trend that has changed is pretty significant. And many banks and financial institutions are even offering the regular buyers and regular customers like you and me to buy, hold, sell digital assets, right, including cryptocurrencies. So NFTs is just an extension of the digital assets. So I started using digital assets as a common terminology for all kinds of things that we can do in the blockchain. I think it's only a matter of time that the regulatory comes into silent or settlement layer, right? Where you get settled with the regulatory questions and regulatory problems that we have in the industry, and it's just going to take off after that. But we don't know what's going to happen in the regulatory industry, right? That's the million-dollar question. So, talking about crypto versus fiat, I also strongly recommend the viewers to study the origin of money. I think everything starts with there. And if you ask me, at least for the next 20, 25 years, or even like say 40 years from now, I see the banknotes still exist. Because if you look at the most secure way of doing a financial transaction is a banknote, is a fiat currency. The crypto and fiat battle is heavily dependent on, again, regulations. So the regulations are going to play a very important role. And also, if you look at geography specific issues, it's mostly do with political unrest. It has to be the government. It has to be more like the current party, what they're willing to do and how they're willing to do, and also from the World Bank and IMF on all the economic sanctions that that people look at. What if we adopt early? What kind of sanctions that they get into? All those uncertainty. I think that is what is like really holding the crypto as fiat as well as the DeFi as CeFi. If you ask me honestly, there is no single answer to this question. There are like bundle and bundle of answers that lines up when we talk about the battle between CeFi, DeFi as well as crypto and fiats.
We are sitting in a point of time where we things are moving really fast, and what's driving the speed is the tech innovation behind it. There's this convergence of technology. There is artificial intelligence, there is 5G, there's Metaverse, Web 3.0, and we all talk about this virtual world that we are building, the Metaverse. The virtual world, largely it's going to be devoid of governance. The government is not going to be there. We'll be building a country where the government is not going to be there. Then we building the economical layer without the bank. I mean, because the banks will not be there, because it'll be decentralized. So in that digital world, in that metaverse, how are businesses gonna benefit? Because are businesses ready for decentralization? It's a little because so far all of our organizations or nations have functioned in a very top-down hierarchical manner. Be it the banking industry, be it the large institutions, academic, or whatever. It's all worked in a traditional top-down function. Now, when we're talking about the metaverse, or when we're talking about the Web3, we're saying that A, it's going to be interoperable, B, it's going to be decentralized, and we're talking about the Web3 layer, we're saying that the intermediaries possibly are going to go out, the world is going to get really transparent, it's going to be equitable. But earlier you were saying that it's the same CeFi guys who are possibly smart guys who are moving on and building DeFi. For those audience who are a little idealistic and are waiting for something magical or something really nice to happen, I mean, what would be your honest take on the metaverse and Web3 and the economical layer, and are brands, organization ready for this opportunity on the metaverse?
I think again, it's not a simple answer, to cover such a broad topic.
Right. Yeah. I think once this metaverse matures, the virtual world that we build in, I think almost all the industries are gonna get upended. Like you mentioned, we build a workspace in the decentralized. Instead of us going to the offices, the offices will come to us. Instead of us going to the healthcare will come to us. So it's an exciting space that we are sitting in, and some really cool innovations are happening. Now you've been invested in the blockchain space, and you've been fronting, creating a blockchain for enterprises. Can you share some examples on blockchain enterprise solutions that you have built and how it's added value?
Let's look at blockchain first. There are private blockchains and public blockchains. So I think by nature, the initial stages of the blockchain adoption for the enterprises were mostly in the private blockchains, because it suits the enterprise a lot by the nature, because the identity of the participants wants to be revealed, and they want to know who is like part of the ecosystem and all that. Saying that, I can't believe how many use cases I've come across. Probably 300 to 400. With the pace that I'm going in. If you ask me to start with, one of the most popular use cases, trade finance and letter of credit flows. This used to be the pioneers in the blockchain industry from an enterprise world, which actually opened up, okay, and how a multi-party system can get benefited using blockchain technology. Then came, dispute resolution, reconciliation, finding lost codes, provenance, or track and trace, which is one of the core functionality of the blockchain itself. Insurance, issuance and certificates, validation, builders and construction workers, getting into these play, defense systems. Another interesting use case I came across, upgrading CCTV camera firmwares using blockchain. Because that's a very security risk. If you see like a smart city like Dubai, many multi-party transactions where we trust another party as a trust enable or a trusted party, right? That's where blockchain comes into picture, from an enterprise perspective. Trading and mining minerals and precious metals and shipping them across the globe. That's one of my favorite blockchain use case. Escrow applications, for example, you need somebody in middle to settle a transaction between multi-party. Servicing a fireman suit, this is one of the very funny and exciting use case, because in the US, the fireman suit cost around $350,000. I was not aware of this. And servicing this fireman suits involve multiple parties and multiple people involved in it, and tracking and tracing that is a very efficient use case for a blockchain. I didn't know until I was sitting in that workshop. Buying, selling futures and options, and settling commissions seamlessly in a exchange or a or a firm which helps exchange to do this. It's just a significant impact in the industry. Moving the settlement of financial instruments like derivatives or other options, futures, or even fixed income instruments. Moving them from T+1, T+2 to T0, or like instant settlement. That's a phenomenal way of touching everybody's life day in, day out. Authenticity. When you talk about authenticity, right, it's very important how authentic goods are, right, from identifying counterfeits in pharmaceutical industries, fashion industry, validating news and photography that comes out, in web pages and all that. I'm buying a coffee bean, paying $120 for a kilo, whether it's like really worth it. Same thing with fish, pork, shipping from half the globe across, the planet. It's all like very fascinating. Wine, how authentic the wine is. Diamond, for example, in a very one of the very first interesting use cases that I used to do. Diamonds get mined in Mexico, get shipped to India for making a ring. The gold gets shipped from Canada to Bombay, and we assemble ring and sell it back in US. This is one of the very first use cases, that really fascinated how blockchain can really make a good impact. And also, adding the supply chain inefficiencies, clinical trials, handling patient records, smart cities, eliminating a lot of paperwork, that we do day in, day out, digital identities. It can just keep going on, right? There's no limit in the number of use cases, in the industry and what I've come across. Like I said, I don't know, maybe 300 plus use cases so far, and we're still going strong. Pretty exciting. And all these are like enterprises use cases. But now I see a lot of enterprises are moving more into the Web3, even public blockchain, trying to create hybrid systems between public and private, using roll-up technology and all that. So it's just all like pretty fascinating, how the enterprises and institutions are adapting to the newer technologies and how quick they can actually see a difference the way they do things 10 years, 20 years back.
Right. I think, things are moving so fast, and earlier there used to be, when you're trying to build an application, you need to have the entire, developer tech stack, team sitting behind, but right now we have these low code, no code solutions. You have these agencies who build out services for you. And you mentioned there's so many applications which is for enterprises. I hope that, it's now gets more widely adopted. Would you like to explain Web3O? And how enterprise can leverage the opportunity of Web3O?
So I think, see, to understand Web3, I think, one need to understand what is Web1, Web2. It's always the versioning, right? So, if you understand Web1, it's just nothing but the initial version of the internet with all static content, somebody's serving, and then you just use making use of the content. So Web2 is more about, Web 2.0, when it came in, from the text side, it all used to be, Ajax. You type in a field, it automatically pops up. That used to be the Web 2 that we all know, but it's not actually the Web 2, right? So it enabled a medium for us to transact, buy and sell. I think from a Web 3 perspective, it's an extension of Web 2 where a community, a creator ecosystem, artist, institution, enterprises, or an individual can transact the digital asset as well as own a digital asset. This is a simplification of Web3. So I think the recent trend in the non-fungible tokens, which is again nothing but an extension of what we all know is about tokenization of real world assets into digital world, or creating digital content and then tokenizing them and selling them in the internet. So the extension of non-fungible tokens, and I'll just summarize with a couple of examples, real world examples, of what we're looking at. For example, if you're a data provider and you have a lot of good data that you want to monetize, what you can do is you can actually create a non-fungible token for the data assets that you have, and then sell that to the buyers who want to buy, and then put an expiry date on the non-fungible token. That means whenever the expiry date is achieved or reached, the fungible token gets burned automatically. And that is the power of Web3. Right? That's the power of blockchain and Web3 that we're talking about, right? We are just, I think, probably in the start, or maybe 2 steps from the start line. So we have a long way to go to the finish line. I don't know whether there'll be a finish line, right? But right now, the use cases are more towards, buying, selling NFTs. That needs to change. Metaverse looks promising. And again, sports industry is looking at things in a very different manner. And the entertainment industry is looking at it in a very different manner. Buying tickets is no more going to be a, boring thing, right? So we're going to have like fun with NFTs and all that.
Right. Yeah. So there's some exciting space. These new things, new ways how we transact and do business is really exciting. But it's also challenging because it's opening up new ways of doing things which we are not used to. And so most of the enterprises are like looking at it with a careful lens. Though obviously the creative folks are at the forefront of it. Leveraging it, like you mentioned. NFTs are being used for. Artists are using it, musicians are using it, and I hope that there's more enterprise use cases when we start tokenizing everything. So there's a huge opportunity over there. You're now part of Consensys. So would you like to first explain what Consensys is and your role?
So Consensys is a software company. The full name of the company is Consensys Software Inc. (CSI). It's a software company which was founded by the co-founder of Ethereum. His name is Joseph Lubin, very popular in the industry. My role here in Consensys when I joined was, to bring in the all experience that I had with the enterprise and institutions into the Ethereum world, because Consensys was a company, which was pretty much focusing on non-enterprise, non-institutional customers, and my job was to, how do we bring in focus into the institution and the enterprise world. I was, looked at being a liaison between customers, sales teams, product teams, and also being a voice of the customer. Because, I strongly believe I understand, what the customers want to hear and what they want to speak, the language that I'm talking about, and simplifying to the way that they can understand. Because most of these topics that we talk about, even at the CXO level, CTO level, or even, if you're a hardcore techie, probably, they want to understand in a very simple way so they can make like conscious decisions. So also, bringing in that confidence, the trust. So you don't try to sell them, trying to be an advocate, and being a trusted advisor for these enterprises and institutions was my primary job.
You mentioned about Consensys, but now Consensys does a lot of products, so it's got like a wide range of products, and you obviously have the MetaMask, which I think is going to be like the driving force behind the metaverse of the Web3, because I think, the two underlying tech, the most important for, onboarding consumers onto the Web3 and the metaverse is going to be your wallets and your digital identity, which would be avatars and stuff like that. So MetaMask, I think it's one of the essential product for onboarding onto the Web3. So would you like to talk about your product stack besides the MetaMask? And obviously, you can start with MetaMask.
Sure. I think this is very interesting, because wherever I go to the conferences, I wear a MetaMask t-shirt, and they ask me, "Hey, do you work for MetaMask?" I say, "No, I work for Consensys." They get confused. So the clarification is, so Consensys is a software company, the parent company, which owns a lot of brands. So MetaMask is the wallet that we own, and is one of the brands that we have. So the orange fox that you all used to buying, selling cryptos, or the wallet that you use as a non-custodian wallet is one of the products that we have. So we also have a blue fox or a purple fox. So I think it's more a blue fox, yeah. So the blue fox is a newer version of MetaMask. It's called MetaMask Institutional. So what we have done is we have opened up a new product for enterprises or fintechs or any other firms who want to do a custodial model for buying and selling cryptos, or doing some other functionality using the product. So MetaMask Institutional is a very new product that we have. The other one of the popular product many people do not know is called Infura. So Infura is nothing but a node as a service for Ethereum blockchains. So we support around like 9. Hopefully, I'm telling the number correct, because we keep adding a number of networks into the platform. So we support Ethereum, we support Polygon, Avalanche, Starknet, Arbitrum, Optimism, Near Protocol, and also I think I'm forgetting a couple of them. So this is nothing but a node as a service, which we provide RPC endpoints for most of these, all of these blockchains that I mentioned about. Most of them are EVM compatible except the Near and Aurora. And we're also looking at adding newer protocols into the ecosystem. We do a lot of volume. I cannot disclose the volume here, but we do have roughly 450,000 users in the platform, Infura. So I actually work pretty much day in, day out with Infura and Infura team, which is pretty exciting. So the next product is called Diligence. So Diligence is also a department. So Diligence is the smart contract security auditing division. So Diligence has fewer products under the umbrella. One is called Fuzzing, the other one is called Scribble, the other one is called Mythics. So all these three or developer-oriented tools, which will help you build in linting or unit testing capability for smart contracts and also finding security loopholes in the smart contracts. So diligence on its own does physical smart contract audits. So this is nothing but you have a smart contract written and you want to go live, for example, a DeFi smart contract, and you want to deploy that with confidence, but you want a blessing from somebody, right? Saying, okay, this is like gold plated or gold standard template or gold standard smart contract. So the diligence team will work with you to a physical smart contract audit, sitting with your dev team day in day out for a week or two, depending on how big the contract is and the engagement model and all that. And they will actually find out all the anomalies that you may have to fix before going into production. That's actually a very niche skill in the industry. Not many companies offer that services. The next one is called Truffle. So Truffle used to be my first development platform way back in 2016, 2017. Doing Ethereum smart contracts and playing with Ethereum and all that. Still, Truffle is one of the leader in the industry. Providing plugins and command line utilities and clients and other things towards the Ethereum ecosystem. The next product is called Consensys NFT platform. So this is a complete NFT offering platform that we have, where one can use the NFT platform to launch NFTs in a matter of minutes. Just literally takes minutes to launch an NFT. So you can use Ethereum or Polygon to launch your NFTs in no matter of time. It's a complete UI-based SaaS offering that we have. We also do a lot of protocol work. This is what many people do not know. For example, the merge that happened now, the Ethereum merge, we actually tested a lot of the shadow forks that happened during testing. So a lot of our core protocol engineers get involved in these kind of activities for the ecosystem development. We also support Hyperledger Besu. In fact, we are one of the primary code committers for Hyperledger Besu. We also own and operate the Quorum blockchain, which was founded and owned by JP Morgan Chase, so which we took over in 2019, and we are one of the roadmap creators along with JP Morgan Chase. We are one of the primary code committers to the Quorum protocol as well. So apart from that, we have large communities. We are also into DAOs recently, decentralized autonomous organizations. We are strong believers in the DAOs. So we are looking at creating few DAOs and things like that. So this is where, Consensys as the differentiator, we just do not want to be the thought leader, but we also want to be the people who really do things. When we say something, we really do it. So recently we announced a new product roadmap for Infura called Decentralized Infura. This is after the Ethereum merge. This is about enabling decentralization for the Ethereum ecosystem, because there's a general talk in the industry that after the merge, seem to be the validators or pretty much looks like a centralized majority. And we want to support the community by going more decentralized approach than what the ecosystem is right now. And we are working on other few initiatives, which will come and as we mature in the industry. From a size perspective, we are around 800 people right now.
Wow, how cool is that? I mean, you guys have built a set of bunch of products. Besides the products, you're doing services and solutions also. And would you like to kind of address, your Indian customers and DAOs? I think it would be great if you kind of explain DAOs, because that could be the future of how we do work. I mean, maybe talk about if there are Indian customers, and B, if you could kind of explain DAOs, will be very nice.
I think from last year, at least with the Consensys, we have a good Indian presence. We have a few people hired in India. So we are also looking at hiring more people in India, so which is a good thing for the Indian Ethereum ecosystem. And I think we look at India as a very big game changer, because I'd like to quote an example here. I had my first mobile phone when I was in the US in 2004. So where in India at that time we're still using the dial phone, paying 1 rupee calls. I still remember that whenever I come to India, I do that. But in matter of 10 years, that actually flipped 100%, right? So India became one of the keeping China out. India became one of the largest mobile users or applications that built on mobile, right? Or the mobile oriented applications, and how quick the payment systems got revamp, and how we think about paying. Even uh, the Dabawala with a simple quick scan and pay, right? I think that's what India can do in the ecosystem as well, right? So in the newer ecosystem of Web3, whether it's like crypto payments or new use cases or bringing DeFi, I think we are like really good in creating applications, even though we lag in a little bit of time. We take a little time to really step into the world and create magic. I think we really do a very good job of applying the technology and creating new use cases and solving a lot of pain points. And that's where Consensus is going to take part in a larger ecosystem by providing the developer tools and support, and consumer facing tools and support, and all that for easy enablement of these companies and startups and individuals to build and get success big time. So talking about DAO, as I mentioned, we have pretty significant ideas about DAO. As I mentioned, I won't be able to share much about what we are doing in the DAO space internally and externally, but most of the DAO makers get advices from a lot of the internal people that who are supposed to be the gurus in creating DAOs. So decentralized autonomous organizations are nothing but self-governing entities, which needs minimum governance, and most of the operations and the things that is decided by the decentralized autonomous organization are going to be part of these smart contracts. So that's a simple definition of a DAO, according to me. But what is lagging today is, we can actually verbally form a DAO and then start operating a DAO. But I think we are a little behind in the tools and the enablers for creating DAOs, and all the challenges that we face in running a DAO is still not solved. I think that leads to the maturity life cycle, right? There's a maturity curve that we all need to go to the top and really settle down on a bunch of tools and technologies, and also how do we govern a DAO? Can a DAO govern another DAO? So all these questions need to be answered and all that. I think what I look at is more than DAO, the community enablement is very important. The community enablement is what leads to the creation of DAOs. So in India, I think if we start creating healthy communities and engage the community members to drive adoption of the technology and the use cases, that will naturally lead to DAO creations. But I think we still have a long way to go, is what my personal opinion is.
I think, all of this new stack, I mean, the promise is excellent, because we breaking away from the top down hierarchical way we functions and moving to ways where, the code could be the ultimate truth, where code could be running these organizations, though it sounds very fancy at this point of time, but when we're actually building out these organizations, it has its own set of challenges, and to overcome those challenges, like you rightfully pointed out, I think, there needs to be more awareness. We need to build out communities so more people are aware. It's not the individuals as well as businesses and governments are aware about how they could leverage these new tech stack, because you mentioned there's already been more than 300 plus use cases of blockchain that you have personally built out or experienced or seen firsthand. It's just that somehow here I see in India that the desire and intent from conversations to actually putting the money where the mouth is and creating real world applications seems to be a little slow, but hopefully I think that's going to change, because the real set of movers are the startups or the young bunch who are taking these brave bold moves and questioning the old and saying, can we do this differently? So yes, I think community is a core, and building behaviors is the core, so that the future, whether it's the enterprise, whether it's individuals, understand that here is this new tech stack, and if we kind of start learning about it, I think you will be able to build a preferred future where obviously you will be economically also benefited. So we're sitting in a very very exciting space. You mentioned about recruiting from India. Could you talk a little bit more about that, because the engineering community over here is really good, but when you talk about whether it's the metaverse or whether it's the web3 or web3 developers, it still seems, at least from the conversations that I've been having, that they still kind of dig onto developers from China or Europe, East Europe, and things like that. What are your views on the developer community over here, and what's the roadmap when it comes to Consensys, or to look at India as a market opportunity?
Yeah, so let's talk about the challenges that I see in an adoption, right? I mean, the developer adoption, because India is known as the IT giant for the world, right? So the big fives, or the big tens, the industry needs to do more projects, and that's when the adoption becomes very easy. If it's going to be a community driven, it's going to take time, right? Because how many communities can one create, right? Because even for me to digest blockchain and do my first transaction, it took me like 3 to 6 weeks. But I was successful in doing it. Not many people would be successful in doing a real blockchain transaction in 6 weeks. Even now, because of the fear or the interest, or what I'm getting out of it, right? So at least from my experience with dealing with a lot of projects in India. In fact, most of my previous blockchain projects have been executed in India, right? There's like significant talent in India. At least from Consensus, what we are trying to do is give opportunity to developers who are good in what they do, right? Again, we don't want to come and say this is what you should be doing. Rather, hey guys, come on, help us. And I think post COVID, the working remote has kind of changed the way that we all do business, right? I think Consensus believes in a working remote. I never been to an office, in the last 1 year. I've been traveling, and either I go meet a customer or go to a conference, or I meet my colleague somewhere in a coffee place at the end of the day, right? That's what is happening with a lot of these startups. I think this is a good opportunity, for somebody who want to get into this ecosystem, because you have the extra time. For example, somebody living in Bangalore really complains about going to the office 2 hours one way, right? So there's like 4 hours that you can save. Now invest that time into something that you want to do. I think that's a great opportunity for the community development, and it does really come from the individual, right? Meetups are a great example, and I think there are more meetups happening in India than the rest of the world. There are more conferences, mini conferences happening here in India than the rest of the world. The only thing is this need to scale up, right? The scale that we're talking about is not micro. It needs to be like massive. Two big conferences in India will change everything that is happening in the industry, because India has been looked up always about this place can actually change the complete world where we were in and where we are now. I think the mobile example that I gave is a perfect example in this case as well. It's just a matter of the large companies adapting the technology. It's not that they're not adapting, right? But the problem with the enterprises with the current situation is there aren't many projects that is getting executed, right? For various reasons. It could be regulation, it could be money, it could be financial constraint, or it could be location constraint, whatever it is, right? So it's just not that one reason that it adds up. Once the companies start executing more projects, the demand for skill is going to be increasing, and that's where you see more people coming into the technology. So on that note, right, the technology is not very easy. This is what I learned, in my experience. It's a very difficult technology. You cannot just survive in this blockchain space, or Web3 space, just by saying, okay, I'm a Web3 developer. But the number of skills that they need to have to become a Web3 developer is a lot more than being a simple full stack developer. And also the maturity, right? You cannot just linger around knowing just few things and call yourself a blockchain developer. You need to get into the protocol level, understand all the issues, security to interoperability to consensus issues. How do I get around some of these protocol specific issues, off-chain, on-chain limitations, interoperability. Uh, all these are like evolving spaces and very significant value add to the ecosystem. And I think innovation has to happen. And if we engage more people, in either in the universities or in the schools. I started talking in few schools and universities already. I gave a speech at IIT Kharagpur earlier this year. It was like a big eye opener for me because there's so much awareness already in the industry, at least at IIT levels. So this need to happen more and more, right? And one fine day, the ecosystem just takes off. That's what happens with India all the time.
Right. Yeah. You rightfully pointed out, we're sitting at a fantastic point of time, 1.3 billion people, the engineering strength of the world happens to be from India. We keep on exporting, the engineers from here, and possibly if we create a ecosystem where the government, the investor, they understand the opportunity and strike to create an ecosystem where we nurture and nudge the industry. I think there could be fantastic applications being created and the fantastic future. Because I think in the next 10 years, I think every company is going to become a tech company, and tech layers such as the blockchain, AI, metaverse is going to play such a huge role. And I think that the students coming up or the enterprise, they need to understand this. And you mentioned that this is such an evolving space, and if it's difficult for the developers, think about the consumers and the enterprise who don't really know about it, how difficult it must be for them also. Because sure, the way this is evolving with all those tech stack layers, it'll become more and more simpler, possibly maybe with one touch, and I hope we get into this world. What comes next for you, and what's the plan ahead for Consensys?
I think Consensys is growing big time. We have just grown significantly from last year to this year. That's the number I mentioned. Last year we were like 300, and this year we are like 900 people. This definitely shows that there's a lot of interest in the company, both from an investment side as well as from a product strategy side, and hiring and growing big and all that. So again, we don't know what's next year is going to be, right? The future is always exciting and sometimes very interesting, the way we approach things. But I think it's doing very good. So at least from my side, I'm continuing to do what I'm good at. At the same time, trying to keep up with the pace of the new innovation that is happening around me and in the industry. And again, loving my travel and talking in conferences, meeting new people, and educating, and also getting educated. I think that's going to be my journey for at least the next few months, unless there is something new coming up.
Lovely. Vijay, thank you. Really appreciate you taking time and being part of the podcast. And you were mentioning in the beginning of the conversation that how you have taken it on yourself to go out, educate people, make people understand the opportunity of Web3, by going into education institutes and conferences. We need more of these conferences. Like you were mentioning through the course of conferences, through the course of conversation, that, even possibly two conference here in India, big conference, will play a huge role in creating the mass adoption of this technology. This technology has taken a long time for it to mature, but it's blossoming, though there are these minor roadblocks or possibly regulatory frameworks, but I'm sure even those will come, or we'll be able to overcome, because this is, I think, a stack which will create huge benefits for enterprise as well as consumers. I think we just need to keep at it. So wish you the very best. Keep on doing what you're doing. And to my listeners, if you like what you see in here, then please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you.